Are we live?
Yes, we are.
All right. Good morning, everybody. I'm Bear with bearindependent.com. We're going to do the brief today. We're talking about global food scarcity. If you're new here, please go ahead and subscribe. Ring the little bell icon. That helps us in our ongoing battle against the YouTube algorithmic robots. If you're not new here, please go ahead and share this brief with somebody you think needs to see it. Bear Independent Brief, 11 July 22. Once again, the United Nations has warned of rising hunger around the world in a recent report stating, quote, a record 345 million acutely hungry people are marching to the brink of starvation, end quote. Food, fertilizer, and fuel are rising in price so much that the situation is becoming increasingly unstable for many countries. One UN official said the rising hunger could bring, quote, global destabilization, starvation, and mass migration on an unprecedented scale, end quote. I just want to camp there for a minute. This is not me saying this. This is the United Nations saying this. And I also want to bring out that we're going to talk here a little bit later in the brief about what you can actually do about that. Because the purpose of bringing you this information, as often as we do, is not to scare you. It's not to give you anxiety. It's to spur you to action, positive action, steps that you can take so that you are not one of those people marching towards the brink of starvation. And in the preparedness community, there's a lot of doom and gloom, and that's not what we are about here. Doesn't mean we don't feel it occasionally, but that's not what we are about here. So we're going to talk about abundance and an abundant mindset here a little bit later in the brief. One UN official said the rising hunger could bring, quote, global destabilization, starvation, and mass migration on an unprecedented scale, end quote. The number of acutely hungry people has increased by 25% since before the invasion of the breadbasket of the world, and the number of people teetering on the edge of serious hunger is only expected to continue to increase. Political action would be needed swiftly to avoid some serious cascading effects. The Director General of the Food and Agricultural Organization has called for countries to move to expand their food production and strengthen their support for smaller farmers by making changes to the supply chain. Quote, we are at serious risk of facing a food crisis now and probably a food availability crisis for the next season, end quote. So these are indicators, right? So indicators with our OODA loop, observe, orient, decide, act. We observe these indicators. We orient on the fact that, okay, food is becoming more and more scarce, not just locally or regionally or nationally, but internationally more scarce. We orient on that fact and we decide on courses of action. And so let me give you a few courses of action here. You have to act on them. I can't make you act on them. As much as you might prefer it, Bear's not going to come to your house and do these things for you. I can't get all the stuff at my place done that needs to get done. So best of luck to you. But courses of action, really basic stuff here. Start planting food. If you live in the suburbs, plant food. When we lived in North Texas, we lived on a 1/3 acre lot. And in our backyard fence with a 6-foot privacy fence around it, we had 11 raised beds. We had backyard laying hens, 6 of them. And get hens, not roosters, because roosters make noise and they will alert your HOA/neighbors / local law enforcement to the fact that you have a rooster. Oh, well, my HOA says I can't have chickens. My HOA said a lot of things too. Guess who didn't care? That was me. So we had backyard laying hens. We had backyard meat birds in a little tiny chicken tractor, 10 of them that we drug around the backyard, moved it every day. We had meat ducks at one point, although I would not recommend ducks for a suburban homestead. They're messy and loud, but we did try that. We had mature pecan trees. We had row crops. I had a section of the backyard tilled up for row crops like corn and sunflower. I had 14-foot tall sunflowers in my backyard. Yeah, it doesn't really work for OPSEC when your crops are taller than your fence, but we did these things. We had rainwater catchment in barrels coming off the downspout off of the gutter in the backyard. We had a rabbit tree with meat rabbits in it, all going in the backyard, and a few cords of firewood back there as well to heat the house with. We converted our natural gas fireplace back to a wood fireplace to heat the home with, and we had a big green egg in the backyard that you can cook with sticks on. So that was all our little backyard agricultural ecosystem. Oh, and a huge compost pile, massive compost pile in the backyard, in the corner of the backyard. All in suburban North Texas. You can do that. Not overnight, but you can do that. And I would recommend you start now. If you live in an apartment complex, get 3 buckets and put them on your little balcony or your little front porch. And in one bucket, you're gonna plant a tomato plant. And the next bucket, you're gonna plant a jalapeno plant. And in the last bucket, you're gonna plant a little herb garden, including cilantro. And maybe some dill, maybe. And then you're gonna make, and maybe some onions in there, cilantro and onions in that 3rd bucket. And then you're gonna make, at harvest time, the best damn salsa you've ever had. Not because that salsa is gonna save your life, but because you start to learn how to grow food. You need to learn, you need the muscle memory, the hands-on experience to grow food, because it is not something you learn how to do overnight. Victory gardens. We've talked ad nauseum about victory gardens. I think we are at the point yet again in our nation's history where we're seeing the lack of centralized authority to be able to provide for all of their constituency, which is going to lead to a loss in government legitimacy, which is going to lead to civil unrest, increased civil unrest, because we already have civil unrest and domestic terrorism. It's just 1/2 of the nation refuses to acknowledge it. But we're not really talking about civil unrest, we're talking about food scarcity. So in that vein, everybody needs a victory garden, even if it's a little 10 by 10 patch in your backyard or your front yard. I know people who guerrilla garden in their front yards in HOA neighborhoods, gated communities, with these beautiful plants that are also growing food. These beautiful trees that actually produce cherries or plums or apricots or apples or whatever, right? There are ways to do it. It's just on us to do it. And so that represents a shift in our ethos, a shift in our mindset away from the system will take care of me. I work my 40, 50, 60 hours a week and I pay into the system, and then I extract. So I put into the system my blood, sweat, and tears and my time, and I extract from the system the food that I need, the fuel that I need, the security that I need, etc. Well, the system is failing. Scary, true, but survivable. And so you need to, in my humble opinion, maybe put a little bit less effort into their system and start putting more effort into your system, so that as their system crumbles, you don't crumble with it. You have your own resiliency. Back to the brief. In an emergency effort to export grain, Ukraine is restoring some long decommissioned ports on the Danube River in an effort to export grain. But officials say that until Russia lifts the Black Sea blockade, global hunger will continue to be a serious threat. It has been reported that currently in the port of Odessa, ships full of grain that may very well be rotting are sitting immobile. Furthermore, over 160 ships are unable to enter the Salina Canal from the Black Sea. These ships are the kind that can carry up to 50,000 tons of grain apiece. That's a lot of grain. It's about 800,000 tons of grain. These trucks and trains are simply not enough to substitute for sea shipments. This is important to understand. Ukraine's entire way of doing business with grain exports has always been based on seaports in the Black Sea. Well, because of the Russian blockade, which, by the way, a blockade is an act of war. So there's an anecdote for you, a little asterisk, a little bit of research for you. A naval blockade is an act of war. Well, we know Russia's at war with Russia, but at what point do the nations that are dependent upon that grain from Ukraine decide that this Russian naval blockade in the Black Sea is an act of war against their people? Something to think about. But Ukraine's entire export system for grain is set up to use the seaports in the Black Sea. One of the major exacerbating issues in the former Soviet bloc countries is the differentiation in the size of rail track for railroad cars. They're not all the same. And we could dive deep into that, but it wouldn't matter. The point is, they're not all the same. They're not all the same gauge. And so trains can run from here to there, but they can't run from here to all the way over there. And so trains have to be cross-loaded or unloaded. And it's much easier to move things via ship than it is train. And it's much easier to move things via train than it is truck. And so Ukraine has been reduced to truck shipments and train shipments, rail car shipments in the cases where they can, to export what grain they have. And because there's been this blockade, the issue that the Ukrainian farmers have right now is that what harvest they can get, they have no place to put, because all of their granaries and silos are full because they were unable to export the grain they had already harvested. So the grain that they have in storage is old, potentially rotting, and the grain that they're harvesting now, they have no place to go with it. That's a huge exacerbating issue in the global market. Back to the brief. These ships are the kind that can carry up to 50,000 tons apiece. Trucks and trains are simply not enough to substitute for sea shipments. The immediately neighboring infrastructure just isn't there to support the massive shipments that usually go by sea. The head of the Department of Agricultural Policy in Odessa, Alla Stoyanova, I think so, I'm not Russian or Ukrainian, said, quote, anecdotally, why do all Russian female names always sound hot though? Or Ukrainian names like Alla Stoyanova, just saying. Alla Stoyanova said, quote, the truth is that there's no alternative to seaports. We must immediately unblock them. The world can find a way to make Russia agree to this. Every 48 seconds, one person in the world dies of starvation. End quote. So I've talked about this ad nauseum, but it bears repeating. I believe that our window of opportunity to stockpile dry goods is closing, which means that we are going to have to necessarily shift from a consumption ethos to a production ethos. At some point, we're not going to be able to get the stuff that we need to get to stack it to the rafters. And I've been telling you for years to stack it to the rafters, but I know there are many, many new people to preparedness right now, and I'm trying to be mindful of that and compassionate towards that. Don't go on the vacation. Buy food. Don't buy that big screen TV. Buy food. Don't buy another AR-15. Buy food. It is the critical need right now. It will become the critical need in the future, I believe. And there are so many variable inputs that go into producing food agriculturally. Large-scale monoculture, monocropping agriculture, fertilizer, which there's an international shortage of, fuel and energy, which there's an international shortage of, labor, which there's an international shortage of, logistics, which there's an international shortage of, proper seed germination, which there are international problems with. It's compounding, and it has the potential to get really ugly for people who are not prepared for it, and I don't want it to get ugly for you, which is why we have these conversations Monday, Wednesday, Friday of every week here on YouTube, and damn near every day of the week on Patreon. Meanwhile, Russia is air quote buying grain from farmers in the occupied region to the east of Ukraine, the roughly 20% of Ukraine, the Luhansk and Donetsk regions, and Crimea. If you've been reading the Resistance Operating Concept book by Otto C. Fiala that I've been telling you to buy and read, there's a wonderful appendix in there about Russian asymmetric warfare. And if you read that appendix on Russian asymmetric warfare and compare it against what is happening in Ukraine, it's easy to say on the surface, based upon the reporting of the war in Ukraine, that Russia has been bumbling and has made a bunch of really bad moves, and they're not as good as we think they are. And I've said that, and I mean it. I don't think they're as good as anybody thought they were. However, when you look at how they prepare for and then implement and then enact asymmetric warfare per their doctrine, they're actually doing pretty damn good per their doctrine. They're not going as fast as maybe they hoped, but they're checking all the boxes per their established doctrine for asymmetric warfare. So that book, Resistance Operating Concept by Otto C. Fiala, is an excellent read for a lot of reasons, but that's one of them. Back to Russia and Ukraine. Meanwhile, Russia is buying grain from farmers in the occupied region to the east, the roughly 20% of Ukraine, at a little overproduction cost. But farmers are taking the deal because it's all they have. Russia has also been accused of stealing over 600,000 tons of grain from the occupied territories. The concern is ratcheting up now as the wheat harvest looms for Ukrainian farmers who often still have grain sitting in storage. Unless something changes soon, there will be no way to get that grain to those who may soon begin starving or already are. I've also said a million times that war is a game of resources. The allocation of certain resources towards the acquisition of or defense of other certain resources. And as resources become more scarce, we will see more conflict. Nation state against nation state on the national and international level, household against household on the micro level in your neighborhood, possibly. See, these are large, broad concepts here. People that don't have food will be aggressive towards people who do have food, which is why you need food and security. And ideally to be in a place where it's very difficult for other people to act as marauders against you, which is why we're such big fans of the low population density areas, because there's fewer people to misbehave and there's more room to produce resources. Remember we talked about that ethos shift? There's more room to produce resources rather than consume resources. What about the US? 4 of the largest beef processors have been accused of price fixing. One of the recent heat waves killed at least 2,000 cattle in Kansas alone, and cattle producers are eyeing the high cost of feed come fall. Some recent intel from Bear Nation is beginning to paint a picture. Quote, "My wife and I live close to Emory, Texas. Saturday, 9 July, the livestock sale barn was packed with ranchers selling cattle due to being unable to keep them fed. The lack of rain and extreme heat has apparently had ill effects on local hay production, coupled with rising grain prices." And next, I work security at a meat manufacturing plant that handles some big clients like Campbell's. I handle and read every bill of lading that comes in. We've not only been receiving less and less trailers coming in, we've had to shut down the plant more often. And we only have 3 trailers with product on them instead of the normal 40 plus trailers. The loads on said trailers are getting smaller and smaller. Just 2 months ago, we would get 42,000 pound loads, and that has since dropped to an average of 35 to 38,000 pounds. The people inside, in the office, who order products are unsure of when we'll start getting a normal amount again. Now, if you're on Patreon, you have the written brief as well as the links that go with it. If you're not on Patreon, you don't. So shout out to our patrons. We appreciate you very much. There is a link in the description of every video and every live stream that'll take you over to Patreon. It's $5 a month, and it is the best $5 a month you can spend on the internet. That is 1 caramel macchiato, 1 can of Skol, 3 9mm hollow points. It's $5, y'all. And so if you can support us on Patreon, and not just support us, but have access to the over 2,500 exclusive videos and live streams there, where the real content is over on Patreon, for $5 a month, we appreciate you and thank you. If you're not in a position to do that, we understand. Please like this video, subscribe to the channel, click the bell icon, and share it with people you think need to see it. Now, I want to talk about abundance and an abundant mindset real quick. How long we been going for, Dud?
It's about 20 minutes.
All right, we got a couple minutes. How many people we got on?
It just hit 1,700, as you asked.
Praise the Father. Very cool. All right, abundance. So I want to touch on a concept taught by SAW, Survival Applications and Weapons Systems, SAW. I shared a link to his YouTube channel yesterday in the community section on YouTube and on Patreon. I think every one of you should go subscribe to SAW.
Yes.
Another steely-eyed Green Beret that knows his stuff and is serving the Father as a teacher. And so this concept of mums, manufacture, use, maintenance, and sustainment. This is his concept, and I'm not going to steal it from him, but I'm going to use mums to discuss abundance with you. And if you want the real stuff from Saul, please go subscribe because he knows this stuff, and I'm learning a lot from him. Abundance. We are being told by everybody around the world, every media outlet, whether they want to admit it or not, is having to touch on the fact that we are going into a period of scarcity. We talk about scarcity here. We have to think about where did this concept of scarcity come from? How was this concept of scarcity manufactured? Now we see it, right? So we experience it when you go to the grocery store and all the shelves have been fronted or there's nothing on the shelves. We see it if you work in industry and business with the supply chain issues that we're having. We hear reports of it from our friends at other channels like Southern Prepper One with his Boots on the Ground series, or Forward Observer with their daily situational awareness report, or Out Front with Mike Shelby, or S2 Underground, right? Or Viking Preparedness sit reps on his Patreon channel. We see it, we hear it, we're experiencing it. This scarcity, it's happening. What if we so radically believed the promise of our Creator that we would always have our daily bread? What if we radically believed that His word will not return to Him void? What if we walked in that, understanding that obedience brings blessings? And so in order for Him to work with us, we've got to work with Him. We have to do the things, the convictions that He has laid on our heart, whatever that might be for you, to go be the hands and feet, to preach the word, to love your neighbor as yourself, to serve the Lord your God with everything you've got. What if that was such a radical part of our ethos that scarcity was not something we had to worry about? What does that look like? See, at Refuge Medical, which is one of our companies, we have a mission statement: to save lives while in service to the Father's people and experiencing the abundance of His provision and blessing. While in service to the Father's kingdom. I don't know why people came out of my head today, but the kingdom is the people, so that's beautiful. To save lives while in service to the Father's kingdom and experiencing the abundance of His provision and blessing. The abundance of His provision and blessing. So how does one find an abundance mindset amidst all this scarcity? How do we manufacture using mums? this abundance mindset? Well, I think that comes down to belief first and foremost. If you are a believer in the Most High and you are covered by the blood of the Lamb, or whatever you might believe, you have a First Amendment right to believe whatever you want to or nothing at all. And that's okay. Whatever floats your boat. My boat's an ark, and Yah told me to build it. Abundance. What if we radically believed the promises of Abba Father, that He's got us, that He tells us over and over again to fear nothing but Him? That seems like a pretty good manufacture of an ethos, the first M in mums. What's the use of that abundance mindset? Think about how now, instead of being focused on everything bad that's happening, instead you're focused on the Creator for His provision and His protection and His blessing. And you're trusting, you're believing, you have faith that His word will not return to Him void. Think of the use of that. How useful would that be in how you conduct your daily life? I think that'd be pretty damn useful. Because now you're pointed upward, vertically aligned, rather than pointed downward at the world. What's the maintenance? What does it take to maintain that abundance? That's where I think people get jacked up. And we have to be careful here. You know, Messiah rebukes the Pharisees, saying, these people are near to me with their lips, but their hearts are far from me. Because your heart has to be into something in order for you to do it. So to maintain that abundance, what if in order for you to have an abundant life of provision and protection and blessing, the Father told you to leave where you are and go somewhere else? Or to stay where you are and protect it? Why was Adam created? Genesis chapter 2, to work the garden and to guard it. There's some implications here. You have to have a garden to work it. And then when you have a garden, you have to work it. And you have to guard it, which means you have to know how to guard it. Which means there's somebody or something trying to take it from you. Those are deep implications. So what does it take to maintain abundance? You have to, as we say, do the things. You can't talk about having a garden. You can't think about having a garden. You can't write a blog post or make a YouTube video or an Instagram reel about having a garden and be able to eat out of it. You have to do it. And it is a big deal. Digging and weeding and seed saving and watering and harvesting and preserving and so forth and so on. The abundance that the Father has blessed you with to steward, because it's a relationship between the two of y'all, Him and you, Him and me. He gives you the blessing. Your job is to steward it. And then, so you have the manufacture of this ethos, abundance. You have the usefulness, the use of this ethos, the maintenance of this ethos, and lastly is sustainability of this ethos. How does one sustain an abundant mindset, an abundant ethos amid scarcity? High vertical alignment, high horizontal alignment. The two prime directives: you shall love the Lord your God with everything you've got, and love your neighbor as yourself. Because you're going to need your neighbor, and your neighbor is going to need you. And you're going to need your Creator, and your Creator needs you. And when you sustain all of that, that feeds right back into the manufacture of this concept of an abundant ethos. See mums as circular. And so my question, my challenge for you today is to think about what de facto information have you onboarded as true. For example, global food scarcity. When all indicators are saying all nations are going to experience global food scarcity. My reminder to myself and to all of y'all is, there's one nation that the Father loves above everybody else, and his word will not return to him void. And he did not create you simply so that you could suffer and die. But he is a loving, all-powerful Father whose hand is on you even this moment, just simply waiting for you to cry out, Abba, Father, I'm ready for abundance. Lead me in that. Fill me with that. Show me how to walk in that. Make me a good steward of that. How much different would the quality of your life be by simply shifting your perspective from scarcity to abundance? And how much faith would it take for you to do that? Kind of hit me like a ton of bricks yesterday evening, sitting around thinking about everything that's going on in the world and realizing, even though I know this, we are in the world, not of it. We're in the world, not of it. And he made the world for us so that there would be a place for us to rule and subdue with him. And when we do that, provision and protection and blessing are our inheritance, and we will not go without our daily bread. So, that's my word for y'all today. Abundance and mums. Now, if you're one of those people that jumps off when it's time to talk about how to support the show, this is your cue. Beat feet, skedaddle, get out of here. Have a blessed day. Shalom. For the rest of y'all, come, let us reason together. RefugeMedical.com. I don't know, can they see my shirt or is my beard in the way?
Do a little tip. There you go.
Boom. That's us. Handmade, made in America, guaranteed forever. We employ 20 families. People talk all the time about, we got to take America back. Okay, let's all try and do a better job of not buying crap from Jeff Bezos or companies that buy cheap Chinese-made nylon pouches and fill it full of high markup medical garbage and sell it to you as a comprehensive first aid kit or whatever. My wife and I were just having this conversation. Need to get some jeans. And I was like, I think I want to get some Origin jeans, Jocko, right? I was like, they're freaking expensive. They're also made in America and produced by Americans.
And you can head kick people with them.
And you can head kick people with them. I can leg kick people with them. But I think we all, especially if you're a preserve the republic kind of person, need to be looking at supporting American small businesses, of which we are one. Refuge Medical is an American small business. We employ 20 families. Our products are on 4 continents electively with all branches of the U.S. Armed Forces, even the Space Cadets, which I don't know why they need IFACs, but they got them, so that's cool. Good job, nerds. 49 lives saved to date, most of which are civilian lives, which is super cool. 49 lives saved to date. Your promo code for everything at refugemedical.com is Bear Nation for free shipping. There's a link in the description. As always, it'll take you over there. There are 3 multicam ARCs, advanced ripaway kits, 3 left on the site. 3 total. The advanced ripaway kit, our newest product, there are 3. That's it. There are red bear facts. And if you're new here and you don't know what a bear fact is, this is a bear fact. There are many like it. This one is mine. Are we looking at a pallet of water, Dudley?
Nope.
Nope.
They're actually looking at you.
Okay, good. So this one has been riding around with me for over half a year on the four-wheeler. As you can see, high quality nylon. It's MOLLE compatible. It's got, you know, bar tack MOLLE on the side. So you can, I've got a soft tee on this side and a set of shears on this side. And the way this works is you pull the tab, pull it open, you grab the red handle right here, you pull the inner out of the outer like so, and you pop this open and you've got all your stuff right here. Now this is a trauma medicine kit. This is not a boo-boo kit, although it will work for boo-boos, but it's designed to work the entirety of the March algorithm. So that's massive bleeding, airway, respiratory, circulation, head injury, hypothermia, and then everything else. And if that makes no sense to you, when you get done watching this live stream, go to our channel and watch the Trauma Medicine series. It's a playlist, the Trauma Medicine series at this channel, Bear Independent. And I walk you through all of that and what's in these kits, what should be in your kits, how to use a tourniquet, how to wound pack, what a chest seal is, what an obstructed airway is, so forth and so on. It's all free. It's a free resource here on YouTube, okay? So you got all your stuff in here. You got a Cat Gen 7 tourniquet, a pressure bandage, medical tape, a Sharpie. Here in the back in what we call the stack, you've got 2 full-size hyphen chest seals. You've got a burn shield burn dressing as well right here. You've got 5x9 gauze pads, nasopharyngeal airway, set of shears, right? That's in the stack. And then down in this pocket down here, we've got our quick clot for wound packing. I like quick clot in the pelvic girdle region. And then you've got your space blanket, burrito blanket for hypothermia. You've got compressed gauze for wound packing. You've got Curlex for treating lacerations and surface wounds. You've got a triangle bandage for improvising a tourniquet if you need to, or making a sling, or using as a cravat, or for binding a wound, or for tying something off, or for whatever. These are like the Swiss Army knife of medical equipment. You've got an eye shield for eye injuries. You've got 2x2s, 4x4s, 5x9 gauze pads in here. You've got fold flat duct tape right here because it sticks to everything, including blood, sweat, and tears. All in this, what we call a trauma pack, down in the bottom of the Bear Pack. And so it's, again, designed to work the entirety of the March algorithm. Handmade, made in America, guaranteed forever. The red is in stock today. It will be another week or 2 on all the cool tactical colors, you know, cool guy tactical colors. Adventure kits are in stock. Adventure kits are tremendous vehicle kits, home kits, homestead kits, semi over-the-road truck driver kits. They're phenomenal. The adventure kit is for boo-boos, bullet holes, and broken bones. All the buckets are in stock. Wound care bucket, birthing bucket, postpartum bucket. Those are all in stock. The crash and smash kits, which are in Pelican cases. You know, weatherproof, waterproof, dustproof, mudproof, lifeproof Pelican cases. The crash and smash are in stock. So those are good for off-roading vehicles, your Jeep or your boat, your bass boat or your fan boat or your submarine or whatever. Good to go. All that stuff is at refugemedical.com. We develop and test these kits by giving them to our friends in tier 3 and tier 2 units. And we ask them to please break these and then give us updates. How do we make these better? And so we have, in the last 2.5 years, we're now on the Gen 3 Bear Pack, because we send these to actual end users and we're like, hey, go break our stuff. And they do, and they report back to us. We love it. Could you do this better? Could you make that better? So forth and so on. And so, like I said, 49 lives saved to date, and all over the globe, these kits being used by our men and women in uniform. So that's Refuge Medical. Go there, check it out. We appreciate you greatly. Your promo code is Bear Nation for free shipping on everything in the store. Refuge Training, you can use Bear Nation for 5% off all of the classes at refugetraining.com. And that is, these are in-person classes for you to come to actually learn from actual instructors who have actually rendered aid in the line of duty dozens of times to teach you the March algorithm. Our curriculum is NAEMT 2021 updated, which is the last time they did an update. It conforms to the Committee on TCCC guidelines. It is nationally post-accredited, which means if you're a law enforcement officer, you'll get training hours for it. It's TCOL, CLEFT, CLEAT certified, blah, 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 blah. We got all the funny letters and certifications on our curriculums. It conforms to the National Stop the Bleed guidelines, blah, blah, blah. It's legit training. I've had 3 steely-eyed Green Berets in the last couple of months say that this is the best civilian medical course that they are aware of. Carl at Tactical Rifleman, Saw, and Pastor Joe Fox at Viking Preparedness, all of which are former action guys, and all of which have said, I don't know of a better civilian class. So if you're a civilian, come take it. I've had people who were in the military, combat lifesaver qualified, some of them twice, take the class and go, this is better training than what we got in the military. So it's a very high quality block of instruction. I highly recommend you come and take it. It is not what the local fire department or the American Red Cross teaches. We're teaching you the same things, but it's not death by PowerPoint. You have to do it with your hands. Nobody gets to leave class until they have mastered the skills that we're teaching you, because we want you to be able to leave class and be able to save lives. And we now have 3 lives that are directly attributed to training. 3 lives saved that were people who were at training, left training, and were able to put their knowledge into motion, use the kit that they had, and save somebody's life. So super awesome. refugetraining.com. Promo code is Bear Nation there as well. Lastly, Grindstone Ministries. We are building Caleb House, which is a restoration facility for juvenile human trafficking survivors. That's a fancy way of saying kids who were sold as product for sex by cartels. We are currently working 7 cases. We have 7 people in our care right now, and we don't even have the building built yet. So, the Father will never give you more than you can handle. Wrong. He will never give you more than you can handle with him involved. So, we have 7 cases that we're currently working. We are fundraising to build the building at Caleb House, and we are constantly fundraising to cover our monthly operating costs of the therapists and the fuel for transportation and the every worldly need that these 7 individuals in our care have. Which, just being straight with you, is approximately $10,000 a month is what that costs to facilitate on behalf of these 7 individuals. In addition to building the building and finding the staff to operate the building and coordinating with the Department of Homeland Security, which is the agency that has oversight on human trafficking and so forth and so on. And so I know times are tight. Believe me, we feel it too. I have trying to build a building amidst all of this has been very challenging, because every time you get a price on something, it goes up and then up and then up and then up. But I'm not complaining. I'm just making y'all aware. If you feel compelled to pray for us, please pray for us. Grindstone Ministries in Caleb House. If you feel compelled, and only if you feel compelled, to help support us or to join with us in a volunteer capacity, please visit grindstoneministries.com. And with that, I love y'all. I hope you have an awesome day. And ponder abundance amidst the scarcity. Bless y'all. Shalom.